Santa Claus. It was.
He was actually on your roof?
Yes, sir.
White male, possibly wearing
in a sleigh?
Yes, sir.
With reindeer?
With reindeer.
I can't tell you if anything was said in those documents about Santa Claus.
The explanation of the northern lights is not the one offered by science.
Imagine, as I know you can and you will, Santa Claus, the reindeer.
It'd be very easy for Santa Claus to be on the ice pack and not be seen. It's an obstacle course of ice blocks.
Is Santa Claus at the North Pole? Does he exist? That's what this program is about. Hello, I'm Jack Perkins. This special report is the result of months of investigation. We have traveled the country, talking to experts and eyewitnesses in an effort to prove there really is a Santa Claus.
He has a white beard. He makes toys. He brings presents. Santa loves everybody.
There's a special bond between children and Santa Claus. He's a hero every child can relate to. He represents eternal goodness and hope. And he's someone children don't have to share with adults. Oh, yes, many adults cherish the special joy and memories he has brought them through their lives. But many adults, too, as they grow older, lose their feeling for Santa Claus. It's replaced by skepticism and doubt. Some people start claiming Santa Claus is not real. But some say he must be, because they have seen him.
I was in my bed, and I heard these bells. And I really thought it was Santa Claus. And so I got the video camera, and I walked down the hall, and I was really scared.
This is the actual home video taken by 7-year-old Adam on Christmas Eve.
When I was looking through my video, I saw Santa Claus, and he was putting down the presents out of his bag. He had a smile on his cheek.
It has been suggested that this Santa Claus may have been actually Adam's father. But we asked young Adam about this.
Santa Claus drank the milk and cookies that I left him, and my father doesn't like milk. And the milk and the cookies are all gone. I know it was Santa Claus because I believe in him, and it was Santa Claus. It was Santa Claus. It was.
Adam is not the only one claiming to have spotted the real Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. Each year there are thousands of reported sightings around the world. And not all of the witnesses are children.
12E3, 12E6. The suspect's described as male, wearing a hat. That's all I could get.
December 24th, 10:20 p.m. 15 miles outside of Fairbanks, Alaska, police officer Lonnie Hartman responds to a young mother's report of a prowler.
Someone around your house?
Yes, we did.
And did you get a good look at him?
He was wearing black boots.
Black boots?
Yeah, for sure, black boots.
Where did you hear him at?
This is going to sound funny, but I heard him on the roof of the house.
Up on the roof of the house?
Yes, sir.
This was thought to be a routine call until 20 minutes later when the same prowler was spotted by other families in the neighborhood. The police were about to uncover some surprising information.
On the roof, and I came out and I caught a glimpse of him in a sleigh and some reindeer.
He was actually on your roof?
Yes, sir.
In a sleigh?
Yes, sir.
With reindeer?
With reindeer.
Oh, he's probably about as tall as me, and he really had this big belly. But he was all in red, and he had these tall black boots on, and he had a big white beard, and he was really quick.
Possibly up to 8 reindeer pulling the sleigh.
Do the police actually believe these reports? We spoke with Police Chief David Haywood.
Here in Alaska, there really is a Santa Claus. At least over the last 5 years that I've been chief here, he's been spotted by our local kids and all of our outstanding citizens. Every year at December 25th, this jolly old man makes an appearance in the area. We keep track of him while he's here and as he's leaving the state.
12E3, 12E6. You know, when I was a kid, I used to look for Santa Claus. I'm 45 years old, and here I am doing it again.
Me too, but at least if we have to work on Christmas Eve, it's a nice way to do it.
10-4. Merry Christmas, Lonnie.
Merry Christmas, Lincoln.
Another possible encounter with Santa Claus took place at 35,000 feet, midway between Los Angeles and New York.
I remember flying on Christmas Eve a few years back. Cockpit was dark, very little communications on the radio. We were kind of depressed because we wanted to be home with our family members and loved ones instead of working. All of a sudden, the silence was broken by a ho, ho, ho over the radio. I don't know who it was, but it did send a feeling of warmth through me and I think through the whole cockpit. The flight attendants told us after we landed that 2 children riding in the back of the airplane said they'd seen Santa Claus out the window. And all you had to do was look in their eyes and you knew for sure that they had in fact seen Santa Claus.
Witnesses to Santa come from all walks of life. Doctors, lawyers, politicians, scientists, all have reported encounters with Santa at some point. Many were afraid to talk to us on camera for fear of being ridiculed, but to our surprise, some very well-known people were eager to talk about their encounters with Santa Claus.
I do believe that the magic of Santa Claus brought me those toys. He and his reindeer, they came to the house, flew away on the magic sled, and I wasn't able to see them. I mean, I would have heard them. I mean, I saw them. I mean, I didn't see them. I mean, Santa Claus does exist. Imagine, as I know you can and you will, Santa Claus, the reindeer, bringing you all the toys and all these bells, and you know, they're coming just to your house to bring you the toy that you've been wanting the whole year long.
There really is a Santa Claus. There are many questions to be answered. How can he deliver millions of gifts in just one night? Does Santa really have reindeer that can fly? How is this possible? We'll get to those questions and hear from other celebrity witnesses when we return.
Hey.
Fly with magic sticks. Santa has a reindeer and he goes like...
Flying reindeer? Don't laugh. It's an idea that might go back as far as prehistoric times. Scientists have analyzed cave drawings which might shed some light on the existence of flying reindeer. We spoke with Santa Claus expert Professor John Rassius of Dartmouth University.
We said that Santa Claus goes way back, a long, long time ago. You know, what's to say? Who's to say that the cave drawings that we do have today with reindeer, and some of them apparently in motion, couldn't be the first tracings of Santa Claus in the human conscience? It's quite possible. Who's to say no?
Did these ancient cave paintings actually depict flying reindeer? Is there such a thing as a flying reindeer? Well, maybe not as impossible as you think. Who would have believed that a large lizard could fly? One did. A pterodactyl, a flying reptile capable of picking up a man. In 1986, scientists built this model to prove that it could fly. So if pterodactyls existed, why not flying reindeer? If flying reindeer exist, where would they live? Well, in the Arctic. Polar search and rescue helicopter pilot Randy Crosby saw something that could have been a flying reindeer.
Some of the weather conditions we get, what we call whiteout conditions, where the sky and the ground look the same. There's been occasion when I've been flying from Barrow to another village, and it's very white out. And I've seen caribou or reindeer that look like they're floating in the air. Anything's possible. There could have been flying reindeer. That's what it looked like to me.
Actor Edward James Olmos claims he heard Santa's reindeer.
I remember hearing something at the top. It must have been about midnight, somewhere around there. It came across, it sounded like it was on the roof, like scraping on the roof, and it felt like the sled. And I couldn't get out because my sister and my brother and myself used to sleep there across on our couch. And to get out, I would have had to waken up everybody, and I didn't want to cause such an emotion that it would make him leave, you know. So I tried to sneak up. By the time I got done and got out and went up the stairs and got into seeing where they were at, he was gone. But he had left all the presents, and the food was all gone. But I'll swear at the age of 5 that there is a Santa Claus.
Santa delivers presents across the whole world. I think Santa must be very busy on Christmas.
He thinks Santa must be very busy. Well, that brings us to one of the most frequently asked questions. How can one man and his reindeer deliver all those gifts in one night? Now, for an answer to that, we went to the Griffith Park Observatory in Los Angeles. We asked astronomer Dr. Edwin Krupp how Santa could deliver all those toys to so many different places around the world.
If you want Santa Claus to deliver a lot of presents and to make a lot of stops on Christmas night, really all he has to be able to do is to travel fast enough. He's also got to accelerate and decelerate in a pretty remarkable way. But it's really a simple problem, getting from here to there. Einstein tells us nothing can go faster than the speed of light. That's 186,000 miles a second. Well, even though that's the limit, it's still plenty fast. That means that you can go around the world 7 times in 1 second at the speed of light. Now, Santa Claus can't travel at the speed of light. The laws of physics tell us that. But perhaps he's got a way of going 99.99% or so the speed of light. If he can do that, he hasn't broken the physical laws, and he can get and cover a lot of territory quickly.
Santa was certainly there quickly for actor Lou Gossett Jr.
I remember in the early 40s, I was about 6 years old, and my parents were worried that they could not afford a bike. It was hard for the entire country that Christmas. But I knew that Santa Claus was not going to let me down. He was going to get me my bike. And I woke up the next morning, and I felt that Santa Claus kiss on my face during the evening. And I went to the tree, and sure enough, there was a bike there. I knew that Santa Claus was not going to let me down. My folks might not have been able to afford it, but Santa Claus got me that bike.
Well, Santa Claus might have elves and magic, but is that enough to make all those millions of toys? We heard rumors that Santa might rely on other helpers, the toy manufacturers of the world. Last Christmas, we noticed under one Christmas tree toys purportedly from Santa, but with manufacturers' labels on them. So reporter Sandy Joseph talked with the president of one toy company.
Are you possibly one of Santa Claus's helpers?
Well, I just as soon not be real specific about that.
So you're trying to tell me that you are not one of Santa's helpers?
I wouldn't say that.
What would you say if I was to tell you that we have proof on tape that when children have asked for presents from Santa, that when they open those presents, they have your company logo all over them?
Well, frankly, every once in a while Santa gets overwhelmed. I do have to admit that Mattel and other toy companies do pitch in and make toys for Santa.
And we believe those other toy companies like Milton Bradley, Galoob, and Fisher-Price are Santa's helpers. We're not saying that Santa does not make toys, but if he does, he sometimes needs help. And it's his inspiration that results in the manufacturing of millions of toys each year.
Santa Claus comes in through the door. There's lots of ways to get in the house. He puts his sleigh up on the chimney, and then he gets out of his sleigh and goes down the chimney. And it's cold on that night, so we have to turn off the fire when it comes down.
History has it that Santa Claus comes down the chimney to deliver gifts. But today's chimney openings seem far too small to accommodate a man sliding down them, so how does Santa get down a chimney? Well, we sent reporter Vanessa Finan to investigate.
Hi.
Hi.
Could you please explain to me how Santa is able to shinny down that chimney?
Oh, well, he's not able to get down this chimney. This chimney's only 8 by 16-inch flue, so it's pretty difficult for him to slide down this big chimney.
My mom told me, and I'm sure your mom told you, that Santa delivers his presents every year by shimmying down a chimney.
If he did it some kind of magical way, either pressing the side of his nose and magically going up and down the chimney, dropping the presents down before he went down. I just don't know.
Singer Loretta Lynn claims she heard Santa come down the chimney.
On Christmas Eve night, we'd all be sitting up waiting, just waiting for Santa Claus, because we knew we was going to hear him come down the chimney. And I kept telling Mommy, we need to let the fire go out. We need to let the fire go out. Well, she'd always let it go down pretty low, but, you know, the house was pretty cold. There's cracks in the house. And so she'd let it go down pretty low, and then all of a sudden we'd hear something in the other room. And us kids would say, Mommy, I think Santa Claus has come. He's come down the chimney in the other room. Well, he'd make a lot of noise, and the Christmas tree would always be kind of messed up, you know, and he'd always leave us nuts and maybe an apple or something like that. But we didn't care what it was, as long as we knew we was going to get something. And, you know, every year we could look for that, so it was always exciting to me.
Perhaps Santa does use magical powers, but how does he get into all those apartments and homes that don't have chimneys? Windows and doors, perhaps. And rumor has it that parents are Santa's helpers, often assisting him in getting into homes. Santa's helpers aren't just moms and dads. Since it's impossible for Santa to be everywhere at once, it is reported that he asks people to help him each year, to dress the part and spread the cheer. You can find these Santa's helpers around malls and department stores across the country, talking with children.
All over the place. What's your name?
Janae.
Come on, sit up here with me. Oh. How old are you now?
5.
5? Look at me. Have you been a good girl?
Carl Anderson is different than other Santa's helpers.
Good this year.
He is Dr. Anderson, a psychologist from the University of Texas. He wrote his dissertation on Santa Claus.
Well, I was always intrigued when I saw children and how much joy they had in visiting Santa, and I thought that that would be a lot of fun and something that would be important and enjoyable to do. And when I had the opportunity to do it, I found that indeed it was. I was really struck by the intensity of the children's belief and the joy and excitement that they experienced when they visited Santa.
What would you like?
Crystal ball.
A crystal ball?
Yeah, so I could see what you're doing all the time.
So you can see what I'm doing all the time.
And see everything in the world.
Really?
I'm one of Santa's helpers, and it's a very big responsibility because I think Santa and what he represents has a very important place for all of us.
Santa was very much a part of singer Olivia Newton-John's childhood.
I grew up in Australia, where it was very hot.
and the days were very long, so Christmas time was usually at the beach. It was turkey at the beach. So Christmas Eve, the days were very long, and I was allowed to stay up until it got dark. So I would stay up until the very last minute, and it probably wasn't dark until about 9 o'clock at night. And I would go to bed, and being a very hopeful little girl, I would hang a pillowcase at the end of my bed, not a stocking. I wanted the biggies. So then I would get into my bed and pretend to go to sleep and try and keep my eyes open, and invariably I would fall asleep. But when I woke up in the morning, I just knew he'd been there. I just had that feeling, the smell of something was different in the air, and someone had been in my room, and it had to be Santa.
Santa Claus lives in the North Pole. But I don't know about that. I think his house looks like a brown house. I think there's candy canes around it, sticking up and around like that, like usual candy canes.
Those who believe in Santa say he lives at the North Pole. Well, in fact, many explorers, including Robert Peary, the first to reach the North Pole, have reported strange phenomena there. Structures that resembled buildings, even cities. But the North Pole is one of the coldest, most desolate regions of the world. Thousands of miles of rugged terrain, sub-freezing temperatures, a hostile environment for human life. How could Santa live here?
Well, the North Pole is not the barren, icy waste that many people think it is. There's actually a fair bit of life out there.
Arctic explorer Paul Shirky was a leader of one of the few overland expeditions to the North Pole. He's written 2 books about his adventure in the Arctic.
Living out on that ice are polar bear and fox, bird life of various kinds, and of course in the water are fish. And it's possible, in fact it's been proven, that people can sustain themselves on the resources that can be found out there on the ice.
If Santa Claus lives there, why haven't explorers and scientists who have been on the ice ever seen him? We asked Paul Shirky if a man could be there and not be seen.
The Arctic Ocean is an absolute maze of big pinnacles of ice. Some of them rise up dozens of feet. You wouldn't know if someone, some animal, something was even 10 feet away, because often your visibility is blocked by walls of ice. You can see maybe only a dozen feet or a few dozen feet at most in some cases. It'd be very easy for Santa Claus to be on the ice pack and not be seen. It's an obstacle course of ice blocks, and it would be as easy to hide out there as it would be to hide, say, in the jungle.
Shirky went on to relate an unusual experience during his polar expedition that made Santa Claus very real to him.
Even though we didn't see Santa Claus out there, there was something very, very magical about the place. There was something electric about the North Pole. For example, we had one serious crisis on our expedition. Our navigational instrument, a very delicate device called a sextant, broke on us. I repaired it, but I felt little confidence in it, and yet we were still 100 miles away from this place, wherever it is. And a few days later, we were there. We'd been pulled magically into the spot that we've been trying to find for 2 months. And I can't explain it. It certainly wasn't a credit to my instrument or my skills with it. There was definitely something very, very unusual about that part of the world. When my kids asked me if I saw Santa Claus at the North Pole, I would have to tell them that I didn't see him, but I felt his presence.
Adding to the magic, the mystique of the polar region are the northern lights, a rare, truly spectacular display that illuminates the Arctic sky in the winter months. Those who believe in Santa Claus question the explanation offered by science for this phenomenon. They have their own.
Science has been right very often in proving certain phenomena, but they've also been wrong in many instances. To people who believe in Santa Claus, for instance, the explanation of the northern lights is not the one offered by science. But to them, the real explanation is that those northern lights represent this massive energy generated by Santa and his helpers preparing the goods that are to be distributed on Christmas Eve.
Has anyone seen Santa's home? Arctic search and rescue pilot Randy Crosby might have spotted it while flying near the North Pole one winter's night.
I had been flying at night before, and it was a very clear night. There was no moon, and it was dark out. There was a very bright light. I don't know where it came from. It kind of lit up the whole, all the ground around me and everything else. I thought that all my lights inside my helicopter had gone out because it was so bright, but I could see shadows on the ground and everything. I don't know what it was.
Now, perhaps no one has seen Santa Claus at the North Pole, but there's a group of young hospital patients who believe they have talked to him there.
North Pole Station, North Pole Station. This is WA60PS from St. Jude Hospital. Santa Claus, are you there, please?
In 1977, a ham radio was introduced to help handicapped adults and children redevelop motor skills. One Christmas Eve, a therapy session was interrupted when a strange voice broke into the transmission. The caller said he was Santa Claus. He's been calling back every year.
I love you. Oh, hey, Santa, how about that? And one day we heard a voice on there saying it was from the North Pole. And we were kind of surprised at that. We weren't really sure we were really hearing the North Pole. But we've heard the same station almost yearly now, and have had a chance to connect patients up with the North Pole station. And he always seems to know about our patients, so it must be the real Santa Claus.
I was a little nervous.
You were nervous?
Yeah.
How come?
Because I thought that they forgot about me.
Oh, Santa wouldn't forget about you. He's got good elves. Brings a lot of special memories and some real happiness and some real Christmas to our patients.
Really?
Who doesn't? What are we going to say to him?
Merry Christmas.
Another young boy who will always remember this experience with Santa is baseball great Mickey Mantle.
When I was a kid growing up in Oklahoma, my father was a lead miner, and we lived in a two-bedroom house. There was my mom and dad and 5 kids in this house. And I remember that we used to always, on Christmas Eve, go to bed about 6 o'clock at night so we wouldn't scare Santa Claus away. But anyway, I always knew if I had a good ball glove, I'd probably get a pair of cowboy boots the next day. But every time that I needed a new ball glove on Christmas Day, it was there. And that made me believe there was a Santa Claus.
Santa is older than anybody else. Santa will never get old.
Santa is very old. The earliest records date back to the year 280 A.D. in Myra, Turkey. A young bishop named Nicholas, later Saint Nicholas, performed miracles and became known for his kindness and generosity to children. Now, despite the passage of time, Santa doesn't seem to grow any older. In fact, a lot of people say he is ageless. Is that possible?
They say in the theory of relativity that if someone takes off in a rocket ship and travels close to the speed of light and then comes back to Earth again, that his clock has moved slower, that time, in a sense, slows down for the person who's traveled, that person doesn't age. I'm not sure how we could fit that onto Santa Claus's own experience of traveling around the Earth, but maybe there's something to it.
Well, it occurred to us, if Santa has these two unique qualities of never aging and the ability to go around the world so fast, he must be of special interest to the military. We investigated this possibility and turned up a startling videotape. It was produced, directed, and released last Christmas by the United States Air Force.
Deep within this vast mountain complex near Colorado Springs is the home of NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command. The joint Canadian-American mission of NORAD is to warn off an attack on the North American continent. To do this, NORAD uses elaborate surveillance systems to observe our skies. Earlier today, there was some excitement here as the following dramatic event unfolded.
This is NORAD Command Post. Our radars in northern Canada and Alaska have just picked up an unknown object at 40,000 feet over the North Pole.
Roger, NORAD. Contact is headed south at a high rate of speed and descending rapidly. Interceptors are scrambling to try to identify contact.
Target heading is 180 degrees, speed Mach 2.
Roger, NORAD. This is Holly Leader. Heading is 300 degrees, climbing to Angels 40. This is Frosty Leader, vectoring on target at 180.
Roger, Frosty and Holly Leaders. Continue on present headings. Be advised, target now appears to be 10 objects in tight formation.
Copy, NORAD. Leveling at Angels 40. Hold it. I have an unknown contact. contact, bearing 35 degrees right at 40 miles.
Roger, Frosty Leader. That's your target. Proceed and identify.
NORAD, I have an ID. You won't believe this. It's a very fat man in a red suit piloting a sleigh pulled by 9 reindeer.
Roger that, Frosty Leader. We pick him up every year at this time. Attention, all NORAD radar, missile, and fighter interceptor units. This jolly old man and his cargo are to receive air defense escort for a safe journey.
After seeing this videotape, we contacted the Pentagon for a statement. A major in the public relations department there said, quote, because Santa Claus flies, this would be an Air Force matter. Yeah, we contacted the Air Force. They refused to speak to us. We went back to the Pentagon. No further comment. We contacted the State Department. No comment. We tried the White House. Unwilling to talk to us. There was one former government official who was willing to go on the record. Hodding Carter III was the Assistant Secretary of State under President Carter.
I really don't understand why none of them will comment. I was in the government for 4 years. I must have traveled to 65 or so countries. I read documents that range from top secret up and top secret down. In talking to those officials in those countries and reading those documents, and in fact, having to look at more material than I even want to remember, not once did I hear somebody say or did I read anything suggesting that Santa Claus doesn't exist.
We asked if there were any references to Santa in those secret documents.
Look, I have to tell you the same thing I told the reporters all those years. I cannot comment on anything that might be in a top secret document.
We did notice that one government agency took an unusual interest in Santa Claus. The United States Postal Service. Over the years, they have issued 4 stamps with Santa's likeness. Now, we know that the government claims it has never honored any fictitious or mythological character with a stamp. So we were curious. We decided to do a test. We sent out 2 letters, one to a fictitious person at a fictitious address, the other to Santa Claus at the North Pole. The one to the fictitious person was returned. The one addressed to Santa Claus never came back. We presented our findings to the Postmaster General of the United States.
Of course we recognize Santa Claus. Of course we do. It's the busiest time of year for us. It gives us the most pleasure to deal with that mail. In addition to the mail for Santa, we deliver 7 billion, with a B, Christmas cards every year. Do we believe in Santa Claus? You bet we do.
We asked the Postmaster General about those 4 stamps showing Santa Claus.
We don't do stamps for non-real people. We've got better things to do. And another thing, if you send a letter to a non-real person, it comes back to you. People don't get their letters back when they send them to Santa. Of course he's real. Of course.
The one thing Postmaster General Frank would not reveal to us is where all the mail to Santa goes. When we tried to find out ourselves, we discovered there are thousands of people named Claus. Hoping that one of them might be related somehow to Santa, we sent reporter Mark Erickson to investigate. And one place he went was to the Westwood Horizon Retirement Hotel.
All the way, oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
There he met 92-year-old Lillian Claus and wondered if she might be Santa's oldest living relative.
Mrs. Claus, do you believe you're related to Santa Claus?
No, I'm not related to Santa Claus, no. But I would like to be.
Well, let's explore that a little bit. Do you recall any jovial member of your family that laughed a lot, that may have sounded a little bit like ho, ho, ho?
Well, we used to hear that a lot during the holidays, though, you know. We used to really hear ho, ho, ho. I don't know what it really meant something. I don't know what it really meant, you know.
Did you have anybody in your family who liked cats, dogs?
Oh, yes, my
reindeer, possibly?
Well, no, not reindeer.
Mrs. Claus, do you believe in Santa Claus?
Yes, I believe in Santa Claus. I believe in him very much. And I think Santa Claus is a really good man to believe in.
There are thousands of people in the world with the name of Claus, and we may never find out if anyone is directly related to Santa or not. But the one thing we discovered about the name is that it holds a special magic, a universal appeal. It puts a smile on our faces, perhaps unlike any other name.
When I was about 5 years old, being a boy and being very curious and wanting to get involved, I figured I'm going to try to trap Santa Claus, sneak down and actually see him, maybe meet him, shake his hand. And I started to do that. And I think I saw his shadow. I know I heard him. And I looked and I said, I better not do this. I'll get in a lot of trouble. So I quick ran back into my bedroom, got back into my bed. But that convinced me. I was sure there was a Santa Claus.
Santa Claus has his toys in his bag. He only brings them to you if you believe in him. Santa Claus knows that who's bad and good because he's special.
The Santa Claus we hear described is special, makes millions of children's dreams come true every year. But how does he know who's been good or bad? Well, it's said that throughout the year he and his helpers may travel the world in disguise, check up. You never know who or where they are. That's why it's written, you better watch out and be good for goodness sake. But what about all the good boys and girls who don't get presents? Obviously, Santa can't get to everybody, and that's why there are charities set up to help. Like the Salvation Army, Volunteers of America, and the largest, Toys for Tots, a national organization run by the United States Marine Corps Reserves. Every Christmas season, it collects toys for needy children. It was founded 42 years ago by Marine Corps Reserve Colonel Bill Hendricks.
Well, it started with a rag doll, much like this one. In fact, this is a replica that my wife made at Christmas time about 42 years ago, and she wanted some youngster to have it. And I found out very soon that there was no organization in Los Angeles of any kind to provide toys for kids at Christmas time, kids that Santa Claus might possibly have overlooked. And she said, why don't you start one?
Colonel Hendricks took his idea to the commandant of the U.S. Marines, and almost immediately, combat soldiers were assigned to help Santa make underprivileged children happy, collecting, wrapping, and delivering more than 70 million toys.
Pretty good, huh?
What started as a local operation in Los Angeles spread across the country the next year.
Santa Claus can't get to all the needy children in the area, so we do the best we can to help him out by distributing toys to as many children as we can. We go to orphanages, welfare agencies, in some cases right to a school, who will then help us distribute toys to needy children.
This daycare center is just one stop the Marines make on Christmas Eve. For many of these children, these are the only toys they will receive.
What is that? Sometimes children do ask us where the toys come from, and we just look at them and say, we're the Marine Corps, and we're helping out Santa Claus.
However, there are some children Santa and his helpers don't get to, but they shouldn't give up hope. Actress Florence Henderson remembers one special Christmas.
When I was a young kid, about 6 years old, I knew Santa Claus was real. And the reason I knew that was because I was from a very large family. I'm the youngest of 10 children. And we were a very poor family. We lived in southern Indiana on a little farm. And I wanted very much to have my reader. We couldn't afford my school books. That's how poor we were. And I prayed for this reader, and I prayed that Santa Claus would bring me this reader. So that night when I went to bed, my father wore long johns, you know, that farmers wore, and they were kind of pink. And I saw those laying over a chair, and I dozed off, and I heard something on the roof, and I opened my eyes, and I looked, and I saw Santa Claus. I mean, I really saw Santa Claus. And the next morning when I got up, I had my reader for school.
I believe that one of the strengths of anyone growing up, one of the best things that could happen to any individual is to believe in Santa Claus, to believe that such good does exist.
We need to provide hope for our children and give them the opportunity to hope for good outcomes and for a caring world, and for there to be, as one little boy said, that there's somebody somewhere in this cruel world who loves children and takes care of them and cares about them. That's what Santa's all about, and anybody ought to be able to get behind that.
behalf of the children of the world, we decided to present Santa with a special gift, a plaque which simply reads,
Dear Santa Claus, we love you. The children on the road.
We took the bronze plaque to Barrow, Alaska, an Eskimo village, population 3,000. It's the northernmost point of the United States and our first stop to the polar ice. We sought the help of the Arctic Search and Rescue Team. The plaque was packed in a wooden crate, addressed to Santa Claus, and attached to a parachute. Our journey took us out across the polar ice pack. There was no way of pinpointing Santa's residence, but we assumed we might be in the neighborhood when, to our surprise and delight, we were greeted by wild reindeer. After 2 hours of flying due north, we arrived at our destination. We were ready to present Santa with his present. Near the North Pole, we dropped the plaque.
Santa loves everybody.
We'll probably never know if Santa found the plaque, but one thing we do believe, there really is a Santa Claus.